I kind of dominated the conversation last week, and a lot of people wanted to hear Dr. Group back on with us. So in this hour, he joins us from the Global Healing Center. 12 ways to support your immune system naturally. And this is in response to what's happening with Ebola, but all these other drug-resistant forms of bacteria, viruses, you name it. Because the medical system would just tell you get more unhealthy and just take more, of their drugs. It's not about purifying water. It's not about eating non-GMO. It's not about getting sunshine. It's not about getting adequate rest. It's not about being happy. No, it's all about just going along with the system, which statistically we know is killing us with all the numbers we have. So that's coming up. Then at the bottom of the hour, we'll give you all the latest breaking news as it unfolds. There's an interesting article up on Infowars.com. Irate NSA staffer doesn't like being filmed in public when an NSA agent, I guess you could call it, was visiting a university to recruit college students to join the NSA. They freaked out saying, don't videotape me in public. I mean, I just love it. We're going to rape you and use all the data to corner the market, manipulate the markets, and do all of this. But don't you dare show me. They're just supposed to creep around and recruit everybody and then aggressively say, don't videotape me at the fair, the job fair that they put on, where he was just there. I love it how the people that rape your rights are always the ones that freak out the most. You can see the video on Infowars.com. Dr. Group is a very interesting gentleman. Of course, he also is an Army veteran, and he's got his own perspective on the world. It's pretty darn close to mine. Before we get into 12 ways to support your immune system naturally and talk about some solutions here today, Dr. Group, what do you make of the state of the world and where it's all going? What does your gut tell you we're going to see in the next few years? Because you don't have to have spider sense to know things are declining, in my view, but also a lot of good things are happening. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Newtonian physics, expanded by Max Planck and other folks like Albert Einstein, really proven as least a law of nature in this third dimension. But it's just an amazing time to be alive. What's your take on the big picture?
Well, looking at the big picture really in how it affects the health of everybody is the fact that we're exposed to millions of chemicals and toxins, and the earth is sick. And when the earth is sick, we all get sick. I mean, you look at the man-made chemicals, we've gotten away from nature and we've gone to a society of man-made things, with prescription medications and toxins being released into the air, the food, the water, et cetera. So, I mean, I see a declining earth and I see declining health pretty rapidly, especially since we're dealing with Ebola and we're dealing with man-made substances right now, which are really hard and attack the immune system. On the flip side, though, like you said, there's always the negative aspect and then there's always the positive aspect. I'm a big believer in there's always a solution for every situation. I don't think there's problems. I only think there's situations, and there's always a solution, and it's finding the solution. That's what my 20 years of research has been. Why is everybody getting sick? Why is the earth getting sick? Mentally being abused. I mean, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual developing all these so-called mental illnesses. Why is all this happening? And what is the best solution to rectify it all? How do we repair it? So that's a big point. Now, the good news is everything, with the introduction of the internet, with so many people not being satisfied and finally waking up because of your show and all the information that we've been putting out on natural remedies to help clean the soil, organic farming methods, people switching back to organic foods. These are some of the good things that are happening. The fight against genetically modified organisms, the fight against Monsanto, the fight against chemical companies. I mean, you're now seeing chemical companies switching to natural brands and organic ingredients because the demand is finally there. And as long as we don't buy these things and we demand higher quality and organic products, slowly we're seeing a change happen.
So instead of just taking the programming from the state-run media, we have to do our own research and change the paradigm.
Right. I mean, I think people are waking up because they realize they can't trust the mainstream media anymore. I mean, they're getting lied to. I mean, no one out there in the mainstream media is talking about natural solutions for Ebola right now. No one's out there talking about are you ready in case of an outbreak that hits the United States? Do you have a plan of action? Do you have somewhere to go? Do you know about how to isolate yourself? Do you know how to protect yourself and your family? I mean, that should be on the mainstream news right now. Listen, here we have a situation that could potentially, we're bringing doctors into this country that are infected, which God knows why we're doing that. The whole purpose of the CDC and the World Health Organization, when there could be an outbreak, is to quarantine and contain the outbreak, not let people travel all over the world and touch different things. With any type of a pandemic, you got to remember that even though they're saying that it's person-to-person contact, one person can come by and use an ATM machine, another person can come use the ATM machine and touch the buttons, and that's contact. I mean, there's so many different things. Money, money changes hands millions of times every day. It can transmit by you touching money.
People sneezing at the mall or the office, but they'll hype up H1N1 that was literally nothing, medical doctors were on record saying. It was totally basically made up, like it's the end of the world. But then meanwhile, they've never flown Ebola patients around. They've never basically stood down. Now they let the crisis get bad enough. Obama is marching in with these thousands of U.S. troops in AFRICOM to save the continent, which we knew was always part of why he was elected, so the globalist could use his face as the face of occupying Africa.
Right. The U.S. State Department's ordering 160,000 hazmat suits. I mean, it's pretty much martial law lockdown over there.
That's a good point you made on Monday. Drudge linked to our article on that links right to the government documents, but also there was another article out confirming that they're telling hospitals for weeks, get ready for it, but then not telling the public any basic precautions. I mean, that backs up your point. This is unprecedented. What do you think's going on with this Ebola?
I'm not exactly sure yet what's going on. It's a system that we've seen that's happening, time after time. I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, we know it's man-made. I'm just trying to figure out, was this purposely released or was this accidentally released? Because, we know that the CDC has a patent on Ebola. We know that they've been working on different types of vaccines. Do they actually have 100 million stockpiled vaccines somewhere that they just haven't released yet? I mean, who knows? And who knows what's going to be in those vaccines too? Right now, the black market situation going on in Africa with people trying to get the blood and pay for the blood of infected people that have healed. You have that situation. But what nobody's talking about is what you can do naturally to boost your own immune system and to protect yourself. That's not what they want. And, obviously we'll find out what's coming in the future. You have Cuba involved now, too, that's bringing people in and out. It's just the whole thing is very, shady when you look at who's involved, what's going on. What I've been involved with over the last few weeks is really telling people and educating people on what they need to do to prepare, because here's the thing. I mean, all the fear mongering, and they take the attention away, as they'll focus the attention on an NFL player, and nobody's really finding out the truth about this whole pandemic and what could happen.
That's right. Ebola is spreading all over Africa and getting into the Middle Eastern areas, and they're flying patients everywhere. And we're talking about a player who spanked his kid.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, let's say, let's hope this doesn't happen, but what if all of a sudden it comes to the United States? What happens if it's already in the United States? I mean, I know people are coming down with respiratory tract infections all over the place. Now, what if that's being suppressed, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, the pandemic is here and it's spreading rapidly? What have you done, your listeners, what has everyone done really to prepare themselves in case a pandemic, happens? I mean, do you have a bug out plan? Do you have a place to go that you can get out of a densely populated area? I mean, that's the first thing that you need to look at and the first thing that you need to do. already in Atlanta, they're already talking about the waste of the people being treated there as being flushed into the public water system. You know, how do you spread? I mean, terrorists have been talking about this for years and years and years on the best way to spread bioweapons through the air or through the water supply, you know? So this could actually spread really fast. And unless you have a plan of action ready, unless you've stocked up on everything, unless you know and you're preparing yourself and preparing your immune system right now, you could literally be caught in the thick of things and be thinking, oh, it's almost too late now because I don't have a plan of action.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, but let's just say this is a dry run. It is a wake-up call. But for Africa, it's not a dry run. I mean, it is threatening to collapse. Sierra Leone, Liberia, other areas, they're estimating millions could die. On the low end, hundreds of thousands. What about all the new superbugs? I want to talk about that. Finally, they're talking about restricting antibiotics on farms that, you know, to feed animals that aren't even sick, which we then eat and then destroys the flora in our gut. I want to talk about some of that because I don't think we're going to see it coming, like Ebola. It's like that mystery illness. I know you're in Texas. It was really bad here this year that killed so many people. They would just go, it's a mystery illness, but the CDC knows what it is and they won't say, and we're not supposed to talk about it. And the doctors would just look at you weird when you're there watching family die. It's just crazy. So Dr. Edward Group is our guest, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to come back and get into 12 ways to boost your immune system naturally. And then we're going to open the phones up so you can call Dr. Group with any questions or comments that you've got. And then we have a special guest of retired CIA coming on. I wish it was the end of the New World Order and organized tyranny, scientifically organized tyranny. You read all their publications, and that's what they call it themselves. Organized, technocratic, authoritarian, scientific dictatorship. And it's so sophisticated, it's a conspiracy theory if you point it out when it's public. All the major weather balloons, satellites, the actual just measurements of the North and South Poles is just growing at record levels. Al Gore says it's all melted and polar bears can't swim. And AOL had the headline, actual headline, global warming likely to cause colder and snowier winters, scientists say. I mean, it's just, this is the end of liars being checked. Or is it really the beginning? Because people are saying no, but the establishment still stands, though. They just stand there in all their muck lying. Dr. Group, I was digressing off into that, but think about how they divert us into carbon dioxide that plants breathe, basically, and then put off oxygen, while there's just all these environmental crazinesses out there, the GMO, the cross species, the spider goats, the super salmon, the glow-in-the-dark poodles you can buy, you know, that are part jellyfish. What is your biggest concern of this whole cocktail? Do you agree with me that past Ebola, it's just all the other stuff that's happening in the background that's the big threat?
I totally agree. It's a combination of everything. It really boils down to how healthy and how mentally strong you are as a person, because when you combine, you know, the damage that affects not only your mental capacity, your physical capacity, your spiritual capacity. There's so much technology out there, or really what I should say is so many different methods that they're using, from the fluoride in the water, the GMOs. I mean, the list goes on and on, that really you just have to educate yourself and know what to avoid and what to look for, and use natural replacements and keep your body clean on a regular basis, because, you know, all that is really designed to keep you sick, keep you non-aggressive, keep you, you know, not feeling good about yourself, and keep you in a constant state of fear, which is another thing. I mean, look, whenever they come out, you were asking earlier about, you know, why are they doing all these things? Well, I believe one of the reasons why is, you know, and I haven't seen any studies on this, but when you come out with an Ebola or a SARS or an H1N1, some sort of a pandemic, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, people like us who know how to protect ourselves don't really panic because we're prepared. We don't get into a state of fear. I mean, Ebola doesn't scare me one bit. There's no, I know what to do for it. But think of the billions of people out there that are extremely scared right now and fearful. Now, how does that translate into money? You think that, oh, they're creating the Ebola so they can come out on the back end with a vaccine and then make it mandatory for every single person to get the Ebola vaccine. But the secondary thing is that they know that when they create fear, that your immune system instantaneously falls down by 50%. And it's very interesting, too, to note that there's all kinds of other superbugs that are going around right now in the U.S. If you look at every single public school, the children are sick right now. The parents are sick because of some mysterious illness that's going around right now everywhere. So when the immune system is down, when they create all this stuff and fear and keep the immune system down, you're more susceptible to catching any type of disease or breaking your own system down because you can't digest your foods. Your cortisol levels are high. I mean, we all know how damaging stress is. I mean, stress is a killer in itself.
You're right. And even the elites, Newt Gingrich is in the news today saying that there's a global meltdown happening and a crisis of confidence in the elites. The New York Times has an article out about Scotland's independence vote shows a global crisis of the elites. The elites claim they've got this whole eugenics-based stage crisis as a way to control the earth and bring down the population. But the truth is, it's just a system where they can screw everything up and be bad managers and then call it a secret plan. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Your phone calls are coming up. I'll give the number out, and we'll get into more ways to boost your immune system with Dr. Edward Group. I'm Alex Jones. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com. Congress has a 7% approval rating in Gallup. The New York Times has an article out, Scotland's independence vote shows a global crisis of the elites. And it's similar polls in Europe. What are armored vehicles and a bunch of militarized police going to do when their grandma's having their house taken? It's just, people know this new world order does not take us to a good place. And the dependency has just turned people, myself included, into unhealthy blobs. That's why I'm trying to have this journey to get back in shape. But it's good news when Newt Gingrich is running around warning the elite. I've got this here in my stack. I'll pull it out in a minute. citing that the system's in trouble. Here it is. It was a National Review. Gingrich warns GOP of population in turmoil this fall. And he says that aggravated Republicans have failed to offer a positive alternative to President Obama's agenda. Well, that's because they're bought and paid for by the same interests, Gingrich. You know that. And there's another one. Left blasts Clinton in secret emails. They absolutely hate her. Mainline leftists that really believe they're trying to build a better world. They have a name for it. It's called people that have been deceived. Because there's nothing liberal about the agenda of the big establishment liberal movement. It is authoritarian. It is totalitarian as the day is long. But it's trendy, so it's okay. Because after all, the president wears sharp suits, has got a slick walk, plays golf, kind of looks like a professional golfer. He's just hanging back, smiling. Everything's all right. He's up there to look confident. All his surrogates take over. All his minions divide and conquer. He's there. Oh, let's come together. Of course, you didn't build that business. Bitter clingers. I'll get those guns one day. Don't you worry. Meanwhile, I'm guarding people with guns, but that's all right. What a world. What a world. Dr. Edward Group joins us. The toll-free number, if you've got any questions for him about herbs or about nascent iodine or about Ebola, he really is a knowledgeable guy because I've had people that, other guests on the show that are brain surgeons and mainline medical doctors and chemists and things, and they just are blown away by the info he puts out. And I know personally the products he helped us develop for InfoWarsLife.com, the Super Male Vitality, the Super Female Vitality, the Lung Cleanse, the X2, the other products that he helped develop with my dad, like the OcuPower for the eyes, but of course, the one that really blows people away, that's the DNA Force, which, by the way, it's got about 10 patented ingredients where you're allowed to actually make claims of what it does because it's certified. It's a nutraceutical. We don't have it. It's sold out at InfoWarsLife.com. We'll get some in a few weeks, hopefully. But it's just amazing. Some people, a lot of people I know who had like nerve damage in their elbows, their knees are like, my knee is numb when I take this. And well, yeah, that's what we told people. That's what happens when nerves are growing back. First, they tingle and get numb. I mean, I've got old sports industry injuries. I've been on this about 3 months, and they, we have our own supply, though it's sold out, obviously. Anyways, it's a side issue. I didn't mean to digress off into that. Dr. Group, let's speak to that before we, well, here's the toll-free number. It's 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. For your question for Dr. Edward Group. Again, I'm your host, Alex Jones, 800-259-9231. Dr. Group, going back here for just a moment to what I was talking about with the products, so I'm going to do a plug here. That's how we fund our operation, plus they're great products. The Oxy powder that we still have in stock that you developed, that is the proprietary on-record Mac Daddy of the oxygen tablets that clean out the guts, the first and the best. And just, I've had truly amazing results with it, flushing out my system. Only been on it about a month, and people can see how much weight I've lost around the abdomen area. Specifically, though, I want to talk about that and some of the other products here, but specifically getting into DNA Force and why it's so dramatic.
Well, the good news is, which I was going to tell you anyway, and for the first time, is we should have some shipped out to you guys tomorrow. So you should have it available by early next week. It's just an amazing formula that your dad and I put together because we looked around and there was nothing out there, and everybody really wants to repair themselves and slow down the aging process. So when we were doing the research, all aging and all disease starts at the cell. I mean, if you look at the cellular function, cells breathe, they eat, they drink, they go to the bathroom, they do every single thing that you do. So the problem is, if we have 100 trillion cells in our body, is that our cells are contaminated. What surrounds the cell is water, and what's inside the cell is water. It's like a balloon. It's really not water. It's more like salt water. It's almost identical to seawater. The problem is, whenever our cells are unhealthy, what you eat and what you drink and what you're exposed to on a daily basis ends up in that water surrounding the cells, or ends up in the water inside of the cells. And those are going to be your heavy metals, your pesticide residue, your insecticide residue, the genetically modified stuff, the viruses, the bacteria, all of these things that end up surrounding your cellular fluid that cause the cells to have to replicate faster and faster. And when your cells need to replicate faster, what's going to happen is they can cause cancer. It can replicate into an oncogene, a cancerous cell, or each time it replicates, you have what's called telomeres that become shorter and shorter and shorter. And scientists at Harvard have come to the conclusion that they can measure your aging based on the length of your telomeres. So the DNA force is really, and when I was talking about, cellular damage, it's really due to free radical damage. All those chemicals and toxins out there are nothing more than free radicals, harmful free radicals. So when we were developing DNA Force, what we wanted to do was put together a formula that would strengthen the cell, that would fight against free radical damage, high antioxidant content, but use compounds that have been proven effective for years and years and years by other companies that have actually done the research on these individual ingredients, and then put them all together into one supplement. And that was the birth, or the creation, of DNA Force.
And it's organic types of the patented ingredients. That's what's so important. It's not the synthetic version. It's the type the body's able to upload.
Right. No one's ever put more than maybe 2 of these ingredients together in any formula. That's why there is no formula in the world that compares to this. Anybody can look on your website on InfoWarsLife.com and go under the ingredient list of DNA Force and type each ingredient in Google, and you can actually read for yourself all the benefits and the clinical studies that were done on each individual ingredient, and then combine all those benefits into one hardcore packed supplement. And you can only imagine the benefits that you're going to get out of it. We've just had, rave reviews. I take it personally on a daily basis myself, just because I know how strong it is. And, even though I'm super clean, I have plants in my office, I have an air purification system going. I mean, I drink clean water, eat organic foods. You're still exposed to environmental toxins when you travel. You're still exposed to stuff all the time. And, I have to admit, I actually do get a little stressed from time to time, just because, everybody does. So I try to control my stress at the same time. But protecting the cells is a key factor.
And you talk about a lot of that is having really clean water, drinking a lot of water, obviously eating a lot of roughage and things like that. I mean, it's a lot of things you do. I want to go to phone calls here and talk more about detoxifying, but let's put in a plug for the Oxy powder that you developed. We do have it. You guys told me for, I don't know, it's off and on for a year, I should take it. And I was like, really, oxygen tablets? I hadn't really listened to you and read that it's your proprietary system where it opens up in the intestines. And let me just say, it's dramatic. And it's unlike any other cleanse I've ever done. And it's been dramatic on my waist size going down. It's just simply amazing. Dr. Group, tell people about Oxy powder, available at InfoWarsLife.com.
Well, years ago, when I finished my research after, 15 years of doing research on the cause of all disease, I wrote my first book, which was called Health Begins in the Colon. And also disease begins in the colon, and really the intestinal tract. Everybody calls it the colon, but it's the first exposure point to all the disease-causing toxins. It's how every single thing gets in the bloodstream. I mean, you might breathe a few things in through your lungs, but a lot of it gets caught in your mucous membrane and ends up, draining back down into your stomach and into your intestines anyway. So once we realized that all disease-causing chemicals enter through the intestinal lining, the next thing was, what's going on with everybody's intestinal lining? And then we started finding out that 10 out of 10 people, usually over the age of 30, have some form of intestinal problem, whether it's not enough probiotics, whether they're eating too acidic foods, they're eating GMO foods, they have leaky gut syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, celiac, bloating, gas. I mean, the list goes on and on. So then we found out that most people aren't having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day like they should. So we just put 2 and 2 together and said, wait a second, what people need to be doing ultimately is eating clean food and more raw foods and stuff like that, but they're not. So what can we do to help people clean their intestines on a regular basis that's going to be safe and effective and not harm the intestinal lining, but actually chew away and break down all that compacted fecal matter that's been there for years and years and years and years and start repairing their intestinal lining. 70% of your immune system is in the gut. The gut is the key to being healthy, the key to your immune system, the key to everything inside the body. And that's when we developed Oxy Powder, because it was based on Nikola Tesla's research on stabilizing monatomic oxygen. And monatomic is O1. It's a reactive form of oxygen. It's called a reactive oxygen species. And we're not talking O2 here, because O2 is already stable. So what this does is it slowly releases in your intestines while you sleep at night. It's easy to take. You take it before bed, and then it releases all these tiny little oxygen bubbles, and it literally oxidizes these toxins and cleans and wipes, breaks down through an oxidation reduction reaction all this compaction in your small intestine and your bowel. So when you get up in the morning, you have maybe 2 or 3 bowel movements, depending on, how much stuff is going on with you.
And again, there's a lot of people out there that act like kids and make jokes about this. This is serious. Colon cancer, all of it is exploding. Bill and Melinda Gates are obsessed with billions invested on manipulating all these new diseases in the gut that they know the vaccines are triggering. It's all connected. This is a major revolution against what they're doing, and it helps fund our operation as well, so it's a win-win. You can also call toll-free to get your Oxy Powder, your X2 Survival Shield, Nascent Iodine, and all the great InfoWarsLife.com products. That's InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And so that's a big part of it, with 70% of the immune system being in the gut, with all these things out there. A big part of it, ladies and gentlemen, is to start taking high-quality supplements like those available at InfoWarsLife.com, the Fluoride Shield, Chelation, you name it. Okay. Again, I like to have group using on once a month. We're having him on 2 weeks in a row here, because it's key information and it helps fund our operation. And that just is so essential. So it's a win-win. Why not do it? Let's talk to Larry in Michigan. You're on the air with Dr. Edward Group. Go ahead.
How you doing, Dr. Group? How you doing, Alex?
Good, brother. Go ahead.
I'm a member. I got a question. I'm 67 years old, had my ticker fixed 4 times. I got like 4 stents. What's good for me to keep my ticker cleaned out?
Well, best thing you can do to keep your cardiovascular system clean, one of the first things that we do is do liver and gallbladder cleansing, because if the liver is clean, the kidneys are clean, some of the other organs are clean, then, the liver can process some of those toxins that's floating around in your cardiovascular system. But again, addressing the gut, because taking it back, why your cardiovascular system is weak to begin with, the root cause, is because you're taking in too many chemicals and toxins or something that's destroying the walls of your cardiovascular system. So how are those things getting in? They're getting in through your gut. They're getting into the bloodstream through your gut. So I would focus on the gut, and then also continually cleansing your system. Another way to strengthen the cardiovascular system is with exercise, pumping it, doing some exercise slowly with your case, maybe getting with a natural healthcare practitioner in your area, There's also some herbs that you can take to strengthen the cardiovascular system, but really focus on keeping your diet clean and increasing your water intake with organic apple cider vinegar and avoiding the plaquey substances, the white flour, everything that can cause damage to the cardiovascular system.
Yeah, well, I try to eat right, and I do a fair job. I'm not fat. I think it's a genetic thing more than anything else because I'm pretty healthy, other than that. And,
well, it is true that there's predispositions for cancer or heart problems, but if you look at the numbers, though, a lot of this stuff's going up because of the additives, the fake sweeteners, the artificial fats. And they tell you all fat's bad. They come out with these new artificial fats, and you see the studies. It's just like glue in your arteries, glue in your guts. I mean, it's really not rocket science that chicken McNuggets, and I'm not just picking on McDonald's. It's in most of the McNugget type stuff produced in China, has the base of silicone in it as a fluffing agent, so that the crispiness looks like, wow, that's really a lot of fried stuff there, and it's literally plastic. I mean, it's just like what might be hurting you is stuff you ate 20, 30 years ago. That's just what I'm throwing out there. Dr. Group, any validity to that?
Yeah, it's a progressive thing. I mean, the thing is they want you to be sick and slowly have, you're predisposed. As you said, you might have some genes, but it's been proven that just because you have the gene for breast cancer or heart disease or anything, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to
Your
get
genes
that.
load the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. There's a couple other things, you can look into some EDTA chelation therapy that helps clean the walls. There's an enzyme called serrapeptase that's produced by the silkworm, and that is really good for the cardiovascular system. In studies, it goes through and helps eat away some of the plaquing and strengthens the walls. Also, another enzyme called nattokinase, which is something that you should look at as well.
All right. Thank you, caller. We spent a lot of time with that caller. It was an important question. We got 2 more short segments with him, and our special guest joins us, who comes highly recommended by Colonel Schaefer to give us the inside take on false flag terror, Benghazi, ISIS, and arming them, and more. We have a special guest coming up. But your calls in the next 2 segments are straight ahead. Bill and Anthony and Curtis and Robin, straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Well, the British pound at a 2-year high. Currency traders bet no. They think that Scotland will stay with the UK. The UK is already run by the EU, so it's kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But it would be good to see the Scots be independent again. But after 500 years fighting to be independent or more. I want to go back to your phone calls right now with Dr. Group. Again, Alex Jones here live. Got a 3rd hour coming up today. Billy in California, thanks for calling in. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. First of all, the Oxy powder, my wife and I have been taking it for a year. We bought it from the Global Healing Center, but that stuff with diet and exercise is amazing for fitness. More recently, the Vitality, we both take it. It's awesome. But my question is actually about my father-in-law who has hand tremors, and it's not related to Parkinson's. What would be good for him, Dr. Group, to take for these hand tremors?
Well, the first thing I would do is try to trace back the root cause of why he's having the hand tremors. And most likely it's some sort of heavy metal contamination. It could be aluminum deodorant. But usually whenever you're having some sort of neurological problem, it stems from toxicity in the brain, and usually the heavy metals act as carriers and they can pull chemicals and toxins up there. So aluminum, mercury. So I would recommend doing intestinal cleansing, liver and gallbladder cleansing, parasite cleansing, and then after that doing chemical and heavy metal cleansing, and then looking at his environment and seeing what he might be exposed to on a regular basis that could be causing the neurological issues and the tremors. One other thing that you might want to look at too is, did he have a fall or any type of traumatic accident, in the last 4 or 5 years or something that could have misplaced one of his bones in his neck? And I would recommend him going to a chiropractor.
Yeah, because it could be nerves.
and it could be a bone that's moved out of position that, or it could even be muscular, actually, up in the brachial plexus, which is a branch of nerves under your arm.
Oh, I know that now that I'm working out hard sometimes, deadlifting or whatever, at night my hands will be shaking, but they're fine the next day. They're just tired.
Yeah, so, check the nerves. There's tests that they can do. I mean, even a chiropractor can do, can call in somebody doing nerve conduction velocity testing. It's called NCV.
Right.
But then have him check, too, for a bone that might be out of position.
All right, thank you, caller. Let's jam in another one. Curtis, real quick question. Go ahead. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, first, I'm very healthy. I'm 31 years old. I eat organic, and I take mega doses of vitamins and nutraceuticals, and I don't eat any processed foods, and I feel great. But my question is, 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I was in the Army, I was given the anthrax vaccine and probably 4 or 5 boosters after that for the 3 years I was in. Is there anything I can do to help flush whatever would be left of that in my body out, or do you think I'm good to go at this point if I feel good?
It just depends on how good your body works. I don't know how. The best thing that you can do, I mean, is just continue to cleanse your body. I don't know how many liver and gallbladder cleanses you've done and how many deep cellular cleanses you've done, but that would be something that I would focus on.
All right, thank you so much. 5 more minutes with Dr. Group, then our special guest joins us, Robin. And Anthony and others, your calls are coming up. Let's go to Robin in New Hampshire. Quick question, please, for Dr. Group or comment.
Hi, guys. Dr. Group, I'd like to know more about colloidal silver, why 30 parts per million is more effective than, say, 100 parts per million or 500 parts per million.
That's a good question. I mean, really just over the years, the last 20 or so years, with the testing that people have done, they've found that the 10 parts per million actually is the most effective dose. I think it has to do more with the density of the water. It's a complicated process when you make colloidal silver, and the type of water that you use, the type of silver that you use. I mean, there's a lot of different variations that are involved. The majority of people out there use a 4.9 silver. There's a difference between using a 4.9 silver and a 5.9 silver. That means 0.99999 silver. There's a difference in whether you use a deionized water versus distilled water versus double distilled water versus triple distilled water. There's not enough scientific testing out there that I can say reliably why that is. You would think that the higher the parts per million, the more effective it is. But you also have to look at the absorption, and the testing that has been done and found effective is at lower ppm dosing. So talking about colloidal silver, it's one of my favorite things to have at all times. And it's one of the things that I would recommend everybody uses. Not only does it boost your immune system and many, many other uses, but it's also one of those things that you need to have good stock of in case of like a pandemic, like Ebola or something like that.
And in my view, any colloidal silver is better than no colloidal silver. I think it also, just like anything, depends on the person's body, their biology. But Dr. Group's the expert. Thank you so much, ma'am. One more caller we have time for. Sorry to Ben and Josh, but we'll see how fast we can go. Anthony in Florida calling in. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, my question is, every morning I do a lot of, for breakfast, I'll juice a lot. And my question is, and I'm not hungry until the rest of dinner time, is juicing a way to get toxins out?
Juicing is a way to get toxins out. It depends on what kind of juicer that you have, whether it's a pressed juicer, whether you have fiber or not in your juicer, or like, for example, if you have a Norwalk, which is what the Gerson recommends, to where you just get the juice itself and it goes directly into your bloodstream. Depending on what you juice, juicing is never bad as long as you're using organic vegetables and stuff like that, because juicing is going to be high in antioxidants. It's going to be alive. It's a live, raw food. You get highly concentrated vitamins and minerals. You get a good form of water in the juices. So it detoxifies you. It energizes you. It boosts your immune system. It helps.
All right, we're almost out of time, Dr. Group. I want to thank you. My friends, Alex Jones here to tell you about some of the most important information concerning you and your family's health. Radiation levels have more than doubled in the last 60 years in the Northern Hemisphere from all of the nuclear testing and radiological accidents. Radioactive contamination is now in most of the food supply. There's only 2 ways to avoid this. Move south of the equator or properly protect your thyroid with Nascent Iodine. Looking to protect my family, I've done deep research. Nascent Iodine is the purest, cleanest, absolute best form of iodine to protect yourself and your family. It's made right here in the USA, completely non-GMO. I searched out the best quality and now have developed a double-strength form of Nascent Iodine, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Nascent Iodine is on record as one of the only safe ways to detox from fluoride poisoning. Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Secure your super high-quality Nascent Iodine today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.